This is Duke University.
Let me welcome you all to the Duke Startup Challenge Finals event. Tonight will be a great night. It's 7 of the top teams from across Duke will be presenting their business ideas to an extremely distinguished panel of judges. These are winners of each of the tracks, each of the 7 tracks. And they got here by a very intense process of selection. So 109 business ideas originally got submitted from across Duke, various schools at Duke, undergraduates, graduates, etc. And today we are left with the top 7 competing with each other for the grand prize of $25,000. Now, before I start, let me do a quick show of hands for the Fuquans here in the audience today. So that is business school students from Fuqua. Okay, how many undergraduates? Brilliant. And how many other graduate schools at Duke? Awesome. So fair representation here. Fantastic. Okay, I'm Shaulabh Gupta. I am a second year MBA student here at Fuqua, and I'm also the president of the Duke Startup Challenge. So before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge and thank our sponsors and supporters. Without these guys, a competition of this scale would just not be possible. Hutchinson Law Group, InterSouth Partners, Eye Contact, Intuit, Business Plan Pro, Warwick Robbins, HPG, Smith Anderson, and Square One Bank. A big thank you to our sponsors. Okay, how many of you recognize that photograph over there at the event in November last year? So that is a photograph from the elevator pitch competition in November last year. It's a photograph featuring the winner of the elevator pitch competition with the 4 judges and the Blue Devil, of course. It was a pitching competition, and the forehead of the Blue Devil read "Son of a Pitch." I thought that was funny. The second from the left is Bill Maris, co-founder Google Ventures. He was the keynote speaker that night. It was a fantastic event. It was a week-long event, and 74 teams participated from across Duke. We kicked off the spring session of the Duke Startup Challenge with the executive summary competition. As I said, there were 109 business ideas submitted. Over 40 judges then were involved in judging these ideas, and we selected 5 semi-finalists per track. There are 7 tracks, as you know, and that made for 35 semi-finalists. The 35 semi-finalists then competed with others in their track to find a spot in tonight's event. On the 24th of March is when the semi-finalist investor pitches happen. And tonight, of course, we have a winner from each of those tracks competing for the grand prize. Just a quick reminder that tonight, 7 of our top teams will be presenting their business ideas. We'll pick one winner and a runners-up, and that winner and runners-up will be announced. It will be kept confidential until the night of the 16th, which we refer to as the Duke Startup Challenge Grand Finale event. That's where we announce the winners. It promises to be a very exciting night. Come and meet the Duke Alum that recently sold his business, Mint.com, for $170 million. They sold Mint.com to Intuit. Aaron Patzer will take us through his inspiring story. And I welcome you to come to this event. It promises to be a great event. There'll be drinks, there'll be food, there'll be music. Patsa, as I say, will take us through a story, and we'll also have all the winners and runners-up for each of the tracks present 1-minute investor pitches. We'll have audience choice awards, and we'll reveal the grand prize winner and the runners-up as well. So make sure you get that in your calendars. Now let me come to our panel of judges for tonight. It's an extremely distinguished set of people. It's my pleasure to introduce them to you. First, Jack Egan, founding managing partner of Egan-Managed Capital. It's a Boston-based venture capital firm. Jack flew in from Boston today. We are indeed extremely lucky to have Jack with us. Thank you, Jack. Next, Greg Mario, CEO of Taxis Pharmaceuticals, a pharmaceutical company targeting highly resistant forms of bacterial pathogens. Greg flew in from New Jersey today. Greg, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Next, Michael Olander, president and owner of Apple Gold Group, which owns and operates a total of 80 restaurants. Now, one of our finalists, Wasabi, would they'd be doing their best, Michael, to impress you tonight, because their business idea is actually about opening a restaurant. It's quite a terrific idea. I've seen them since last year in November. They've done a fantastic job. But Mike, I have a quiz question for you. Where do you think Mike flew in from? Any guesses? Yeah, so the answer is he flew in from nowhere. He drove in from Raleigh. Thanks, Mike. Karen Levert, president and CEO of Southeast Tech Ventures. Karen was supposed to be here today. Unfortunately, due to a death in the family, she could not make it. Our thoughts are with Karen. I'd like to now, here's what we'll do. I'd like to request our judges to maybe give a quick introduction about your background, how did you get to where you are today, and then maybe a quick 2-minute summary of what you'd like to see here tonight. What would you like to see and hear from in the investor pitches tonight? So Greg, if I may suggest we start with you.
Yeah, Greg Mario. I graduated here in '91, and I was pre-med before that. And I sold pharmaceuticals for a couple of years and realized that doctors were no longer playing golf on Wednesdays. They were working for people like you guys. So I went to business school. And then I got into the pharmaceutical industry. I spent about 13, 14 years in life sciences, a number of different capacities. Marketing, sales, business development, licensing, and acquisition. Really had a Jones for deal making and the investments that pharmaceutical companies were making at the time in small biotechs. I took a flyer and joined a telecom company in 2001 during a restart. It worked out extremely well, and I started a small angel investment fund with my brothers. And I spent about 5 years looking for opportunities to invest primarily in life sciences, where I had a lot of experience, but opportunistic in some other fields. I was also looking to invest my time again and really find something not only that was worth a cash investment, but also investment of my time. And fortunately that happened at the beginning of last year. And I founded Taxis Pharmaceuticals. It's a really interesting space. There's always a need for new chemical entities to treat bacteria because those bugs get resistant really quickly. And we're early stage discovery and development. I'm the first employee. We just hired 2 chemists this month, raised another $500,000 on top of our first $750. And it's real, it's exciting, it's not for the faint of heart, but I'm certain that none of you here are faint of heart. That's why you're here. So I hope I do well and represent us well. Thank you.
Jack, would you like to go next?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Jack Egan. I pleased to be here. And, after reading these plans, I'm very impressed. I was a sales and computer science major coming out of school. In the early 80s, I joined a technology company which was known as EMC. EMC makes large-scale storage devices. I was employing them before. I kind of coordinated the sales and marketing function there for 54 quarters, and then became responsible for the engineering and manufacturing. Left there in '98, became a venture capitalist with Egan-Managed Capital. Egan-Managed Capital is a family-focused fund, early stage, New England, in information technology. We've made about 35 investments. We just made about 100 rounds, and we currently have about $300 million under management. To answer your question about what I'm hoping to see tonight is, I think I'm kind of saying in bullet form because I don't want to take too much time. One of the things I look for investments is the market size and the compounded annual growth rate of the market. That to me is real important. Second, the investment has to have significant disruption potential. Disruption potential, it makes market entry a lot easier. I look here specifically for defensibility of IP. How safe is the investment being made from being competitively copied? I look for the team capacity for execution. How fulsomely is the team put together, and what's their backgrounds and their ability to execute? I look for the investment idea to be capital efficient. We aren't in the business of investing in semiconductor fabs or other large-scale, long-term investments. And I try to figure out how fast can the business get to $20 million in revenue. The faster you get to $20 million, the more likely you are to hit critical mass and be self-sustained. So those are some of the things I look for, and some of the things I hope to see tonight. Good luck.
Michael.
Good evening, and I am a Cornell grad, not a Duke grad, so this was a real exciting year for me in basketball. I'm a Duke basketball fan. Cornell had a great year for an Ivy League school, so very exciting. I am a lawyer by training, but I spent all my life in the restaurant industry, and people often ask me why. And really, because I had gotten married and my wife wanted me to do something, and I wasn't doing anything, so it's not I fell into it. And the reason I think I've been successful is, one, just taking a basic managerial approach to what I do. You have to have good systems in place, you have to understand business model and so on, and you have to be able to get money. You have to be able to convince somebody to loan me money. I constantly have to get money to build restaurants. So a lot of what I do is ensuring that from a financial perspective, what I do makes sense. And as I look at what I would look for today is that same sort of thing. First of all, does the financial model make any sense? Is it realistic? What is the market potential? And is there something innovative about what you're doing? Opening another restaurant is not particularly innovative. What is it about that concept that would make it innovative? No matter what you do, whatever your product is, how does that particular product establish a new place? If it's just the same old thing, so what? How are you going to get entry into the marketplace and really distinguish yourself? So that's what I look at overall is, does this make financial sense? Is it going to be a really solid return on investment? What's the potential for growth? Why are people going to want this product? What is unique about the product? So as I listen today, those are some of the things I'll be listening to, but also, is there a very coherent presentation indicating a lot of thought, a lot of planning and organizing into what's going on, where somebody just kind of saying, hey, this sounds like a good idea, I'm going to see if it works, or, hey, I put a tremendous amount of thought and energy into this, it really makes sense, and I've got a great plan.
Thank you, judges. Now that we know, and more importantly, now that our competitors know what the judges are looking for, it'd be a very, very...
I didn't tell anybody what I'm looking for.
Oh, you want to go?
No, I'm not going to tell you. Because anytime you go in front of VC or people who are looking, you're looking to get their money, they won't tell you. You gotta sort of figure it out.
So yeah, no, absolutely. So with 2 people having reviewed some and 1 having not. Alright guys, so here's how the night will work. Each of the competing teams will make 8-minute uninterrupted presentations. At 7 minutes, Vatsala will show them a 1-minute left sign. At 8 minutes, there'll be a hard stop. Then there'll be 1 question asked by each of the judges. So there'll be 3 questions in all. The same format would apply to all teams. There are 7 teams presenting tonight. Once all 7 teams, and while the teams are presenting, can I ask each of you to, there'll be feedback forms on your desks. Can I ask each one of you to fill those out? This would be extremely valuable to our competitors tonight, irrespective of the outcome, guys. I know each one of these competitors, they're extremely passionate about their business ideas, and irrespective of the outcome, they would go ahead and implement their ideas, and so your feedback will help them improve their investor pitch and will help them, improve their business plan. So please, if you can, that'd be really appreciated. I keep clicking buttons that I don't want to, so I'll go back. And then once the 7 presentations have been made, our judges will make overall comments and give us feedback about the night. The winners, of course, will be kept confidential. As I said, the winners will be announced on next Friday, which there'll be a new Startup Talent Grand Finale. So without further ado, let's begin. Here's the order of pitches for tonight. We have Micropower next, products and services track winners. I'm gonna pull up that presentation. Also, while they set themselves up, guys, may I remind you that there are feedback forms on your desk. Please fill out those. It's very valuable for the competitors here. And you can just let the feedback forms be there on the desks. So we'll collect them after the event. All the best, guys. Whenever you're ready.
Guys, thanks for coming out tonight. It's a great privilege to be speaking in this audience. My name is Will Gardner. I'm a PhD student at Pratt. This is Andy Camacho, who's also a PhD student. We've got a pretty good team, and we're positioned to execute on this. We've got a rock star advisory panel. So basically, batteries are limiting technology right now. My cell phone, I have to charge it twice a day. My laptop's constantly plugged into the wall. And this is mainly because batteries can't utilize better fuels. There are 2 obvious solutions to this, which would be fuel cells and engines, which pretty much exist today. What we're going to talk about, micro-engines have higher power densities than fuel cells. Then we're going to talk about how we're actually going to make this happen. Then we're going to talk about our market strategy, where we use the military market as an entry and we'll segue into consumer electronics, our status, and the use of phones.
So the problem with batteries today is that they don't last very long. And the reason they don't last very long is because the chemical properties of the materials simply can't hold enough energy. So if we want things to last longer, we need to use new materials that have more energy. This is a graph representing how much energy different materials can hold. If you look here on the bottom left, we have batteries. In the 1980s, we used nickel-cadmium batteries. And 20 years later, today, we're using lithium-ion batteries. But what you notice is that over the course of 20 years, the progress has been incremental at best. So if we want our devices to last orders of magnitude longer, we're going to have to use fuels. What we've decided to use is ethanol. The reason we've chosen ethanol is because it has a good power density, it's renewable, it burns very, very cleanly, and also the infrastructure already exists across the country to utilize it.
So now we'll talk about how to use that fuel, basically fuel cells or micro-engines. There's been recently a lot of positive press about Bloom Energy. It's a PhD guy who's a NASA fuel cell in the Mars program. So this is a picture from their 60-minute piece. It's a neat technology, but the power density is not going to be as high as micro-engines. Thus, it's not as applicable to portable electronics.
So in order to use these fuels, what we want to use are micro-gas turbine engines. The reason we want to use turbines is because if you go to any power plant today in the world, whether it's nuclear, geothermal, coal, or natural gas power, they all use turbines because they are the best devices on the planet today to generate electricity. We're taking this technology and we're miniaturizing it. This is another graph that just represents energy densities. You'll see here represented by this red dot, this is our initial prototype. It's been designed to operate at a very low thermal efficiency of 10%, but even at this low efficiency, its energy density is already 5 times greater than today's batteries. Our most recent design is designed to operate at an efficiency of around 40%, and as you can see, it will have an energy density of around 20 times greater than today's lithium batteries. This is how our technology works. It's really simple in principle. What you do is you take gas and you bring it into the combustion chamber, and then you burn it to make it a high energy gas. You take that gas and you pass it through a turbine to make it spin. Attached to this turbine is a micro generator, which then creates electricity. In practice, though, this is actually very difficult to build and design, and the reason is that when you shrink these technologies, you end up with a lot of technological problems that must be overcome. So we've had to invent and design a lot of new technologies and components to get this to work at this scale. And this is what we've done in our PhD research.
So let's talk about some of the market opportunities here. So basically, one of our engines, and we'll assume a 10,000 hour lifespan here, plus about $50 of ethanol would equal 1,400 batteries, which would cost the military $166,000. So typical batteries on robots right now will last about 4 hours. Our runtime will be about 60 hours. The market opportunity for the military is only about $20 million. Which is why we want to segue into consumer electronics. Global battery market's about $71 billion. We can assume pretty stable growth rates. So again, let's use some examples that we can all identify with. A laptop that Andy has, he can watch about 4 hours of video with that. Using that same space, we could watch about 60 hours. So my iPhone, I can blab for about 5 hours on a full battery charge before I have to find an outlet. With this micro engine, again at the same space, same volume, will last about 73 hours. So over the summer, we executed on a DARPA grant. We did a lot of R&D. We hashed out a lot of the cycle variants. We filed a patent on that research, and now we're making prototypes. We expect to go to a Series A round on the order of $1 to $2 million in about 12 months. This 25K will fund about 50 prototypes and put us in a pretty good spot. So here's just some revenues here. Again, for this military class, one of our engines is worth about $21,000 of rechargeable batteries, and so we've gotten a price point of about 10 times, and that's how we're getting our military price point there. About 4 years out, we're looking at revenues of about $16 million, and again, this is only for the military market. So here's some of the startup landscape. We see some investment demand for technologies trying to solve this problem right now. What you'll see, though, is that we don't really have any direct micro-engine technology threats, and we've got the IP locked up. So basically, batteries aren't going to cut it. They barely cut it today. They're certainly not going to cut it for the future. We've got to use better fuels. We think a micro-engine is the best way to do that for portable electronics. Questions?
Two important questions.
Sure.
Yeah. One of the risks I see in the consumer business is the perceived safety issue that you talked about earlier.
Sure.
Jack, can I ask you to use
Yeah, I just was observing in the presentation there was comments around perceived risk a consumer might view this product with. I think you'd like to comment on that a little bit.
Sure. Well, in my pocket right now, I've got a microcombustor and a butane fuel cartridge. There it is. So we anticipated this. So can't bring these guys on airplanes anymore. However, Lilliputian, your MIT fuel cell startup, according to their website, they can bring them on aircraft. We have yet to see it happen, but.
And also, we also plan on going to the military market for the first 4 to 5 years. So this will give us third-party validation, and it will give people the opportunity to find out that our technology is safe and very effective.
So, let's talk about thermal. Sure.
Just so I make sure I understand it. So I guess I was mistakenly of the impression that the micro combustor was actually lit or working,
Sure,
but it's in your pocket, and it clearly is not in the example you just gave.
Oh, it is. It's just that, so if you take like a standard laptop,
I just want to make sure I was clear on the question. So the example you gave, the combustion in your pocket, and we'll
Sure.
look later. So what is in your pocket and when it's on an airplane? It's not combusting.
It is combusting.
Why is that?
That's just how this cycle works.
You're referring now to your engine?
To our micro engine, yes.
Yes, that's my
First
point.
But
That's
also,
the distinction.
for example, have you ever driven like a hybrid vehicle?
I have.
Okay, so the way those work, and this is the same exact technology we're planning on using, is whenever you're using very low power consumption, for example, city driving, what you do is you use small little electrical conduits, batteries. This lets you go from small point to small point. There's benefits due to efficiency to this, but the point is, what they use to get their long range is they use fuels, because fuels have very high energy densities. So what they have is a system where on board the car, whenever they have high demand, they have this engine running and constantly charging the batteries. So this gives them the advantage of having range and long run times. And then in very short bursts, when, for example, you cannot run your engine, you can turn it off and you can run off the batteries for a while. So it gives you kind of the best of both worlds, if that makes any sense. So for example, if you're on a plane and you put your phone in airplane mode, you basically just tell it to turn the engine off. The batteries will probably get you to last for an hour or two, 4 to 5 hours, but you get your long run times of 50 to 70 days by having that engine going. It's basically no different than a hybrid vehicle. Same technology.
In your plan, you talk about it being very interdisciplinary, so that it's going to be very difficult for anybody else to do it. But then I see that MIT had a micro-engine project. Now, where did that, what happened to their project? I mean, clearly they were able to pull it together, and where'd it go?
So our advisor is the lead designer for that team, and basically back in around 2000, the cool thing to do was to go in finance. So the team dissociated. Basically, some guys are professors now, others are management consultants, but all that IP is there, and we've got it locked up. We've got exclusive rights on the MIT options.
And also, in addition to that, they probably went about 95% of the way. They hit a few bottlenecks that they actually were not able to overcome because they ran out of funding. I'm sure eventually they would have overcome them. In the meantime, in the last 10 years, our advisor, Jonathan Protz, our PhD advisor, complete genius, he's actually come up with the technical solutions to the problems they've had in the last 10 years, and that is the last 5%, which let us complete our engine and get it to work for the prototype. So that's how we overcome that last 5%.
It took them about $25 million in about 10 years to hash out a lot of component technologies for this. And the way I like to think about it is, it's like you had the Wright brothers trying to build a 747 instead of a Wright flyer. So we're trying to make Wright flyers at this point.
So MIT doesn't have any of the intellectual property?
We have exclusive rights to all of that technology. We've already purchased them.
So some of their gas bearings and some of their turbo generators, that's where we would get to for that phase 3 design.
My question is on IP as well. I think that that's the biggest issue here. So if you guys really do have something, everyone's going to want it, right? And there's lots of money behind this, like you guys have said in your business plan lays out. There's lots of money available for these new energies. You say you got your IP all tightened up, right? all tied down. But then you mentioned here that your strategy seeks to minimize upfront costs while maintaining adequate coverage. Do you actually have a budget for continued IP? Do you have an actual strategy?
Yes, if you look at our the appendix with our financials, you'll see we budgeted a lot of money for lawyers. And so basically, I think what's going to happen.
Well, but this is where I'm confused.
Sure.
Because you want to minimize upfront costs while maintaining adequate coverage, or hiring consultants and basically outsourcing a lot of work to minimize upfront costs.
Oh, well, we're
How
talking
does
about
that work? Because consultants are really expensive if they're good.
Basically, we hired a guy who's the UNC tech transfer guy for maybe 20 years, and so he's cheaper than a lawyer, and he makes our tech transfer people a little bit more comfortable to speak to. And so basically our strategy, that provisional we filed, it probably has 4 to 5 patents in there, and I think the patent office is going to come back in a year or 2 years and say, hey guys, you need to pay us this extra money and get 5 more patents here. That's kind of what I was
Well,
trying
my understanding of IP, though, and maybe it's different in the healthcare technology world, you can file lots of different patents and later bring them together. But if you put a lot of stuff into one patent, you can actually put yourself at risk if you can't actually cover all the bases. So it seems like you save money up front, and you can, in fact, put your whole company at risk.
So basically, this was the strategy proposed by our
Understood.
consultant, right?
Okay.
And so I think they're called divisional patents. And so he said, we'll just split these guys up. You know, in a couple years, when we're generating some revenues, we can actually afford to pursue these patents.
Okay,
That was our strategy.
thank you.
Sure.
Great job, guys. Next we have Wasabi. Michael, that's the restaurant I was talking about. You actually know them, I think.
Well, they did the elevator pitch, I was judging the elevator.
Nice. Great. Whenever you're ready. Is the sound turned on?
Thanks, guys. I'm Sean Puri, and this is Dan Sertner. We're the creators of Wasabi. It's an innovative restaurant chain that's going to do for sushi what Subway did for the sandwich and what Chipotle did for the burrito. You know, the world of food is changing. Healthy eating is not just a fad, it's something that's here to stay. It's a movement, and it's a movement that we support. We support healthy eaters with an on-the-go lifestyle, and in doing so, we fill a huge void in the sushi industry. So let's talk. What is the sushi industry? You have your full-service restaurants where you have high-quality sushi, but it's expensive and it's slow. And on the other hand, you have this. This is the infamous takeout sushi box. I'd like to offer my judges a taste of this. Feel free to take a whiff. I must warn you though, it does taste just as good as it looks, so I'll leave it at that. Now, with sushi, we have this problem. And on Duke's campus, let's take Duke for example, right? On Duke's campus, that is the #2 selling item on campus, sushi. On Duke's campus, we did a student survey. 93% of students said that they are very unsatisfied with their product. That sushi tray in front of you has an approval rating of 3 out of 10. Now, how can this be? How can the #2 selling item have the lowest customer satisfaction? And the answer is that there's just a lack of options. Students are forced to either choose between quality of a restaurant or convenience of the box. At Wasabi, we make it easy, we provide both.
We're going to do this by using the assembly line ordering system that's found at popular restaurants today, like Chipotle and stuff. And we call this the freestyle. With the freestyle, you can either choose something off the menu, modify something off the menu, or be bold and go ingredient by ingredient as we custom make your sushi right before your eyes. That's how our process is going to work. But we realize the key to our success is going to be the quality of our food. So in order to do that, we needed to find a quality chef. So instead of looking to Craigslist for a chef, we went to the Food Network. We were watching Throwdown with Bobby Flay, and we saw a sushi chef, Philip. Philip is the director of the California Sushi Academy and the owner and head chef of a popular LA restaurant, Sushi Central. After seeing Philip's passion for sushi, we decided to call him up. So at first he was a little confused as to how he got his direct number, but after that he was also a little hesitant about if our modern style of serving sushi was going to mesh with his traditional values. But after a few months of conversations, we decided that we needed to fly him down to Duke and show him what we're all about. And after only 3 days of being with us, we decided that our goals were completely aligned. We wanted to bring high-quality sushi to the general public. Now, the question is, how are we going to do that? So Philip has agreed to join the team in order to make Wasabi's signature recipes and signature sauces. But more importantly, he's going to create the system by which we can create restaurant-quality sushi at a fast pace. So what does that mean? That means after Philip's training, anyone in this room can be trained in about 3 weeks to make Wasabi-style sushi. Now that's going to be our competitive advantage, and that's going to be something that's going to take us to the national level.
Exactly. A sushi restaurant, restaurant-quality sushi without the sushi chefs and all the overhead involved. That's the competitive advantage that allows us to compete in what we call the fast casual market. Now let's talk fast casual. Most of you probably haven't heard the term, but you've seen it all around you. Fast casual is the movement of people away from the McDonald's and Taco Bells of the world because they're willing to pay a slightly higher price for that quality and healthy food. Now, the fast casual market is amazing. It's booming. It was created about 5 years ago, and every single year since then, it's grown at double the rate as the industry as a whole. Now, within that fast casual market, Asian food is growing at twice the rate of any other food. So as you can see, we've recognized a trend that's on the rise, and we've combined it with a model and a process that's proven successful. That's the recipe for success. I think Business Week put it best when they said that sushi is the burrito of 20 years ago.
All right, so financially, how are we going to pull this off? Unfortunately, we don't have too much time to take you through the whole financial model, but we just wanted to provide you with a quick financial snapshot about how we're going to do this. Basically, as far as startup costs are concerned, we're looking at about under $300,000. That falls in line with the Subways and Quiznos of the world, and is well under what it costs to start up a McDonald's or a Burger King. As far as our profit and all of our margins, they also fall very competitively within the fast casual industry. So we feel with these numbers, we can definitely enter that industry pretty easily.
Exactly. You know, we've followed the model of success, and we've seen all their stories. You've seen Subway, you've seen Chipotle, Pita Pit, you know, the list goes on and on, the story is the same. They start in college campuses and college towns. What does that allow them to do? They have an opportunity with a stable customer base to gain customer loyalty, and they're able to improve their process. This allows them to grow their brand value, and then they're able to compete in the more competitive city environments. And we can do the same thing. But there is another option, and that option is pretty unique for us. We can approach food service vendors such as Bon Appetit or Aramark with our concept once we've proven success. You make a proof of concept and you build brand value, and then you approach these networks that are already in place on college campuses, sports stadiums, airports, you name it. These guys are everywhere. And these companies are constantly looking to invest or franchise in concepts like our own. We feel that we have a unique concept that they would be very, very interested in.
So just to recap, we have an innovative idea, we have a world-class sushi chef, we have an untapped and unsatisfied market, and the ability to become the next Chipotle, the next Starbucks, the next big national chain. And that's why we're here for you, Mr. Olander. You have experience and expertise, and we've seen what you've done bringing the Apple Gold Group to a huge success. And we believe that with your expertise and your access to funds, like you were saying earlier, it costs money to open up a restaurant. And we don't have that. We might have Philippine the methods to produce it, but we don't have that.
Exactly. And, I mean, you know, I know all this sounds ambitious, but so are we. And the thing is, Mr. Olander, I think you can see that this is an innovative product, it's a unique concept, and we have the right team involved. The market is growing, and that's the recipe that we have to offer you. You know, I was walking over here today, and I thought I was telling somebody about the competition. I told them, you know, it's going to be hard to compete with these amazing technologies that are out here. What are we? We're a sushi restaurant. And they told me to achieve something that you've never had before, you have to be willing to do something you've never done before. So I hope we've shown you today that we weren't just here telling you we want to win. We need to win. We need the $25,000 of prize money to develop our prototype and our process with Philippine. That will allow us to show our model will work and move that into our first space and our first location. And then we go from there. We're asking for you guys to give us a chance and an opportunity to stop talking entrepreneurship and start doing it.
Oh, this is like bribery.
This is nice.
Pass out
Get that microwave.
Swallow one. I'm going to give my question to the guy who knows about restaurants, so you can go for two.
Well, actually, they've done a very good job with their business plan. With restaurants, the issue is always how you going to get enough revenue. It really comes down to revenue, and how do you maintain a unique aspect to your concept. What's going to prevent somebody from immediately copying you? You know, what's going to give you some staying power and get you enough momentum that you can build enough market presence or develop enough market share before other competitors start copying you? Because it's really easy to copy.
Sure. Yeah. You know, we thought the same thing. You know, it's difficult, especially in the restaurant industry, to protect anything. We do have some advantages. We have a world-class sushi chef on our side. And if you look at all the restaurants that become successful, it's not about who's first, it's not about who has the most protection. It's about who has the best product, who offers the best service, and is able to do that consistently. If you keep your customers satisfied, we're confident that we're going to be able to succeed. We've got a team member who has world-class recipes and restaurant experience. Now, we feel that if we're able to team up with someone like yourself or one of these food service vendors, we'll be able to grow rapidly with our unique concept. And that's how I feel we'll be able to do.
The other thing I would say is that the restaurant industry is very marketing driven. You know, as you look at your marketing plan, I mean, right now you're limiting yourself to the Duke campus. But even within the Duke campus, how do you plan to market yourself?
Sure. If you noticed the video at the beginning, that was one night's work. You know, we understand who we're marketing towards because it's us. It's the people in this room. We understand them. We've limited ourselves right now for two reasons. One, to keep quiet a little bit about our idea. We didn't want to really let the word get out too much. But secondly, we do feel we have a plan in place to reach these college markets with our network and with our understanding of who we're trying to sell to.
I just want to make sure I understand. So the business model is to generate cash from the first restaurant to generate enough to start the second one, is that?
Basically, we're looking at several models. Obviously, yeah, we could grow organically and go restaurant by restaurant. But like Mr. Olander was saying, people can come and copy this pretty quickly. So we want to kind of develop our thing with the first store, get all the bugs out of our process, and get this ready to take to market, and then explore it. If you look at what Noodles & Company did, this is what they did. They developed our market, they developed their initial store, and then blew up pretty quickly. So instead of trying to raise enough capital to go to that second store, we would have to go extremely slowly. Kind of people would see that we're doing well, and someone with more money than us and the means to expand more rapidly than us is of course going to crush us. So that's why we're trying to show our success in that first store, where we're not going to get too much publicity. No one's going to really care about our Wasabi #1, and that's why we're looking for that, either that partner with that big food service company or someone with franchise and restaurant experience in order to kind of go to that next level, so we can really make an impact where someone's like, oh, well, Wasabi dominates most of that market, so let's not even try to do that. Wasabi, guys.
So one of my classmates is up next. Winners of the IT and Media group. I'll pull that presentation now. Whenever you're ready.
That's the way to win the competition. Take the remote control with you.
Does anybody have the remote control? So in exchange of sushi. We're all at rats. All the best, guys.
All right, I'm Drew Sadowski. I'm one of the co-founders of CurVit, and I'm going to start off with just a quick product demonstration. So this is my online profile, and from here I can add information just like I would any conventional resume. But the key with CurVit is that it's my online resume repository. I can store any and all resume information that I would ever want to use here. And then in this case, I can create, export, and save targeted resumes specific for industries or companies for any purpose. Now, in this case, you're seeing I've selected some specific information from my repository and I've exported it. And in this case, it's formatted perfectly for the Duke MBA program. Now, originally, the idea here was to solve the pain of resume development for students and to make it easier to create targeted resumes in general. But over the past year, I've had many discussions with career directors and program directors around Duke University, and we found that, in fact, this is the perfect basis for a more efficient on-campus recruiting platform. We like to think of it as LinkedIn for on-campus recruiting. There are 6 programs at Duke University that are currently strongly interested in this service, and 2 of them have asked for formal proposals to move forward with August 2010 engagement. We've got a great team to take us to that milestone and beyond. First of all, Zoltan Naj is the other co-founder. He's a PhD student. He comes in with very specific experience, having worked in a startup that sells web-based services directly to educational institutions. Erwin Centillis is a former Duke undergrad. He's worked in a number of IT startups, and most recently he was the CTO of MindTime.com. And then, of course, I'm Drew Sadowski. I've spent the last year, while I'm in the Duke MBA program, developing a lot of strategic relationships with many different programs around Duke campus, trying to build buy-in to the service and also really to improve the final product. So the overarching goal, problem that we're trying to solve here is really the inefficiency of on-campus recruiting. Now, we've uncovered quite a few different pain points here, but I'm going to focus on one just for the sake of time that touches all 3 of these stakeholders, and that's resume books. So the way resume books work right now is students provide one generic resume to a static resume book at the beginning of a school year. From there, recruiters will pay upfront fees to be able to just see those resumes. So in an MBA program, they might pay $500 to see an entire class of resumes. Now, this alienates a lot of smaller companies because the fact is that they can't afford to pay that much for a lot of different schools to be able to see just a talent pool. From there, that really hurts career services because the fact is that their goal is to get in as many companies to see those students as possible. And they can't really do this because, for one thing, they don't have the resources to be able to build this service in-house. So they hire an intermediary to build these resume books, and that's why they have to charge this much money up front. So with CurVit, we have a solution to this problem, and it really is based on this centralized database of student information. So from the student standpoint, they can do what I just did up here at the beginning of the presentation, which is create their own online resume repository, create targeted resumes for specific industries, and then from there, the recruiters are going to go in and they'll see a dynamically created resume book. So if you're a consulting company, you come in and you see the consulting resumes of all the students who have their consulting resumes in that system. Now, we cover up the contact information originally, so recruiters can see this information for free, but all they're seeing are the credentials of students. So they can search these targeted databases for very specific information, and rather than having 900 students that they have to pull through, they find a very targeted group of 10 or 15 students that really meet the qualifications that they're looking for. From there, they can just pay for the contact information of those students. So rather than paying $500 for 900 resumes up front, they pay for 10 resumes that they really are interested in talking to. Now, for career services, this is really attractive because they can advertise their students worldwide and say, come look at our students for free and then make the decision. And if you have a highly talented pool, like you would have at Duke, this makes their job much easier. Another big selling point for them is the ability to mine the data of the students, because right now there's no system that allows them to have all of their students' resume information in one database. So there are 3 different customers, like I've talked about. The students get this for free because ultimately they're just content generators. Where the money comes in is through career services. Now this market is about $200 million annually, and the goal is to show them that students actually like this service, and to be able to show them that they can buy the module to be able to access that from an administrative standpoint and be able to mine that data and use it for more efficient purposes. This is where we've got 2 Duke University programs interested in this service. And then recruiters, like I've already talked about, this is about a $50 million market just for this resume book functionality, which is kind of our entry point here. The competition in this industry is highly fragmented. According to a 2009 Gartner report, there are 4 to 5 competitors in the overall e-recruiting industry that take up about 30% of the market. Everything else are very small scale competitors. So it's far from consolidation. And at this point, startups that have technology that can really challenge the way things are done right now have big opportunities in this market. And it's growing at about 10 to 12% annually. I'm going to focus on one specific competitor, Optimal Resume, and they provide a similar service, have about 600 customers. But we've approached a customer that actually uses Optimal Resume right now, and they're so deeply dissatisfied with the service that once they saw our product demo, they decided to drop the service, and they're asking us for a formal proposal for August 2010. So that gives you an idea of the kind of opportunities we have moving forward. In terms of milestones, really, I'm focusing on the next 1 to 3 quarters because that's extremely important in our growth. Our cash runway is basically ending around August or September 2010. So at this point, we expect to have our first customer, and we're pushing to have our first customer by that time in August. From there, we believe gaining that first customer is one of the key hurdles. From there, we can see gaining 7 to 10 customers just based on the interest at Duke and the types of recruiters that we have access to here, and about 100,000 revenue by the end of this year. Now, to date, we've invested about $15,000 in web design and development, a provisional patent, and other legal fees. Excuse me. And we're requesting $250,000 investment moving forward, which includes accelerated product development of about $100,000, a general patent search and filing beyond the provisional patent that we've got, and of course, we'd like to hire a marketing and sales person to be able to work through the end of 2011, and then also general administrative for key employee salaries. So that's where we are right now. I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
You talked about the fragmented market, and you mentioned Optimal, and there's a lot of dissatisfaction. What is the dissatisfaction with the existing products?
So the programs we've talked to so far are dissatisfied with really functionality, because they don't have, in most cases, they don't have access to the data themselves. And so it makes it very difficult for them to do anything with that data. Additionally, they can't define the types of resume formats that they want their students to use. They have to use predefined formats. And so there are a number of functionalities like that the company doesn't offer, because they have so many different competitors, or so many different customers. They've decided that they don't want to customize. They just want to provide a one service fits all, and that hasn't worked for this specific customer.
So how are you going to be able to customize?
Well, for us, we've been able to develop simple templates for any given program. Like, for instance, the Future School of Business template. We can develop that for a low cost. And so for us, we go in and saying, we'll develop the template that you want your students to use, and that goes a long ways in helping them decide to go with CurVit over Optimal. But that's not the only reason. There are also the fact that the resume book creation tool, that's not available with Optimal Resume. Additionally, we've offered the ability to create alumni databases, which are not available through Optimal Resume. So really, there are a lot of different modules that we've discussed with these programs that they're dissatisfied because they don't have any of those capabilities.
With such businesses, I always worry about stickiness. And looking at the future revenue, I noticed that you acquire fewer customers in year 4 than you acquired in year 3. And I was interested as to why that might be, and is that a reflection of that being a net number, maybe experienced churn, or what was the cause of that?
Actually, that's. Do you mind if I see that so I can see what you're talking about? Oh, So that's in fact a function of, we see that what you're looking at is the number of customers being the schools that we educate. And we see that as being a function of the number of students that are required to be able to get a school. So we see at the beginning that getting smaller programs is more likely, and then by the end, having the ability to get larger customers like bigger universities is more likely. So in the end, the number of customers is less, but it's just because there are more students within that customer base. Does that make sense?
I understand. That was what I was trying to understand. So it's not a reflection where you think you're going to get churn in the life cycle of a customer's something on the order of 24 months.
No, it's really a function of we see this starting at that sort of small. Right now, a lot of the programs that we're targeting are between 100 and 200 students, because some of these programs don't need a huge e-recruiting platform. But we see that as we develop this for smaller programs, the ability to scale up to much larger universities is more likely. And so that's why the number of universities we get is smaller, but the number of total students we service is much larger.
Yeah, but the nature of the question is, my experience is that customer acquisition costs are very, very high in these recurring revenue models. And at some point you have to experience whether or not you do have churn. And this is obviously you haven't been established long enough to have any sense of either the sales cycle or the churn. And I was just wondering if that was a forecast of what you expected to have happen. And it has a dramatic effect on your cash flow.
Right, and that was not something that we had built into the model.
I have a question on valuation. Could you explain how you came up with your valuation in the business plan? It reflects on 2013 projected revenues of about 19 million, and then some discounted cash flow model that puts you at 3.5 million pre.
Yeah, so that was a very basic valuation based on the assumption that we reach a revenue of 19 million in year 4, and that we use an exit multiple of 1 times revenue. It was very basic. And so we said at year 4 we sell for 19 million, and we discounted that back 50% because we believed in this. For a VC style valuation, we just expected a high discount rate. So discounting that back 50% over those 4 years leads us to about a $4 million valuation.
So I guess you would expect someone to invest $250,000 for about 5% of the company.
That's our current valuation.
Okay.
CurVit. Next we have Greenwave Sciences.
So, it's kind of hard to just
No, that's fine.
Okay, just a reminder that keep filling out those feedback forms. Also, we'll resume drinks after all the pitches are done, so you can network with the participants, the judges, etc. That would get resumed after all the pitches. Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Mike Bell, and I'm with Greenwave Sciences, and my partner is actually at an entrepreneurship conference in California today, so I'm flying solo. Our mission at Greenwave Sciences is to develop a pre-plant sterilization method that is universally effective against crop pests. It is cost-effective, practical for the user, and is also environmentally friendly. Now, to give you a little background on what's going on, each year the U.S. economy, there's about $10 billion spent on chemical soil pesticides. And of this $10 billion, you have pre-plant sterilization methods, which are used to prepare the soil before you go in and plant to protect these crops when they're growing up. You have both chemical and non-chemical methods of pre-plant sterilization, but typically chemical has been used more because they're higher efficiency and they have a better cost point. Now, the king chemical in this pre-plant sterilization has been methyl bromide, and that's because it is a universal killer and it also has a relatively low cost point. However, the Montreal Protocol of 1993 said this stuff's depleting the ozone layer. We have to start phasing it out. And now you can only get methyl bromide through critical use exemptions. And every year we're getting less and less of this that our farmers are allowed to use. And we'll eventually reach 100% phase out. And it shouldn't come to any surprise in here that most people see putting chemicals into the ground kind of bad. David Pimentel, editor of the Pesticide Question, says, our U.S. economy, we spend $8.2 billion in damages every year on this stuff. So what we can basically break our problem down to is this. Right now, we lack a cost-effective and environmentally friendly alternative to methyl bromide for pre-plant sterilization. There are substitutes, however, they all have flaws. Either they don't work against a variety of pests or they're too costly. And these include our green methods as well. For example, solarization. It's cheap, but it's climate dependent. We don't have a green champion right now. And basically, methyl bromide, the phase out is imminent, and the costs will be real and evident, both economic and environmental, if we do not come up with a better solution. So this is where Greenwave Sciences comes in. We're developing a microwave soil sterilizer unit that can be hitched to the back of a tractor, seen there, and pulled over bedded soil rows. And what this guy does is, it's powered by the tractor's power takeoff shaft. And what it does is it cranks up this generator, which then produces high amplitude microwave frequency electromagnetic waves, which are then applied via waveguide over these bedded soil rows as the tractor is moving. And when you're dealing in this market, you have to remember, farmers are businessmen, and they break down their costs on a per acre basis. Over the product lifetime, we show that we can sterilize at $49 an acre versus the $580 of methyl bromide. So that's pretty incredible. Okay. The other awesome part about our product is, besides being so cost effective, it's a green solution. We don't contaminate soil or groundwater. We don't affect the soil in any bad ways, and pests cannot really become resistant to heat as they can with chemical methods and grafting. And you're not just dragging a microwave along the ground. This is a very complicated problem. You have to consider things such as soil depth penetration and pest geometry and orientation. And this is where Dr. Joins, a Duke professor, our CTO, and the patent holder for the microwave soil sterilizer comes in. He's been spending 3 years on developing the equations and what we're going to need to make this happen. Some of his design principles are listed here. And we believe that with his technical leadership, we will outpace any future competitors. So our primary market covers vegetable farmers, and this is because they're high value and they need pre-plant sterilization. If we look at just the strawberry and tomato farms that are 100 acres or greater, we're looking at about 800 of these. When we sell a unit to each of them, that's $400 million. And that is only including strawberry and tomato. This is a massive market. The methyl bromide market in 2001, remember this is a chemical we're trying to get rid of. In California and Florida alone, $157 million. Again, a lot of money here. Our sales strategy, we plan to do this in 3 stages. In our service stage, we will be getting our name out there. We'll be showing, hey, this thing works. You can trust us. Once we have it solidified ourselves in the market, we plan to expand through rental and then eventually be able to produce enough units for sales. This is kind of a very conservative financial projection, saying that if we do this on our own without partnership and we go up through year 5 with just startup service and rentals, then begin building in about year 5 for sales, by year 10 we can have about a 500% return on investment. So, and this, again, this is very conservative. And year 10 we'd be building and selling about 13 models. So again, we can do better than that. If we're given the Duke Startup Challenge money, right now what we need is to develop our prototype. What we need to get there is we need to have this thing fully modeled in HFS modeling software. This takes professionals. We need manufacturing grade drawings. This prototype is going to be $600,000. We need this funding to get right up next to prototype so that we can go after investors with that. And we also recognize some key risks. One of them is these large chemical companies, and the way we could combat them is to partner with people like John Deere and get that name recognition and some strong infrastructure. Another thing we have is unit costs. You know, a farmer may say, okay, this is $500,000, it's a lot of money. However, you saw our per acre breakdown. We can finance this thing effectively to these farmers and show them that this is definitely worth their investment. And then obviously, you're using microwave radiation. There's an article of safety in there. And we plan to use extensive third-party testing, as well as having several safety measures in place of our own. Geographically, we plan to begin here in North Carolina and expand throughout the southeast end of Florida, and eventually to the West Coast and California. Also, as far as the product solution line, we're looking at a multi-bedroom unit. As you guys saw there, that just does one row at a time. We want to expand this where we can do 3 rows at a time. And then even a stationary unit for greenhouses. That's something that's really lacking right now. Greenhouses need a unit like this. And at Greenwave, we really believe that we can revolutionize sterilization in the soil industry. And if you have anybody sitting out there in the audience want to ask any questions to us, please feel free to send us an email to this address. And I want to thank the judges and welcome any questions now.
You mentioned earlier in the presentation that farmers are businessmen. Yes. And you know, I got to believe they're very stubborn, I guess, about trying new things because you know, one bad year to wipe them out. So how do you overcome the fear of adopting something new? How do you expect to gain rapid adoption of something so revolutionary?
That's a great question. And we actually have a fantastic partner in South Carolina. Flowers Farm is a I'm sorry, Paul, is it 1,000 acres? 2,000. So this is a huge farm, and we've got this guy saying, I want this unit. This is incredible. Build me one now, basically, is what he's getting at. And so farming is actually a very forward industry with technology. These tractors that they have now, you program the GPS and it runs the rows for you. These guys are really looking at these things, and they're not as stubborn as you might think. But obviously they wouldn't go full board into, well, I'm going to sterilize everything in 1 year. Is that what you're getting at? In 1 year with your solution? Because if you wipe me out with a poor product, then I'm toast, right?
No, and
okay, I'm sorry.
Since no, it's a good point. Because the cost is so high, and even if it's financed and whatnot, I'm just wondering if you guys have a strategy, whether it's you get the first year for free.
Well, that's like that service model.
Or, yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear a little more about that. How you overcome the fear of adoption.
All right. Well, yeah. So basically, the service model, we plan to dip into a little bit to the red, as you saw there, because part of this goes into our field testing as well. But basically, what we're saying is we will come to your farm, and we will run some rows for you. And we will provide this service to you so that you can see that we have an effective solution. So, and then basically from there, they can see, okay, well, wow, this thing does a great job. Sign me up. Paul, do you want to add anything to that?
The service model's on a yearly plan. We offer them service on a per acre or per hour basis. But you got to sterilize every year. So if they like it during the service model, they can maybe buy a rental model next year. If they like the rental model, they can buy a unit of their own if they've got sufficient acreage and they got the money that they want to spend on it. That's how we're going to be able to show them that it works. That's how we're going to get our loyal customer base.
Okay, thank you.
So can you walk me through the IP ownership?
Absolutely. There's an extra slide in your handout in the additional that we have in here as well. So basically, right now, Dr. Joins, who's sitting behind you, is the he owns the patent, and he did this outside of Duke, really. So what we have now belongs to Dr. Joins and will be transferred to Greenwave Sciences. And anything going forward, since we're here at Duke, we will negotiate through the Office of Licensing Ventures. And we have, SDI, unfortunately, the representative couldn't make it here tonight, but basically our CEO is great too. He does a lot of this stuff. He's worked with the OLV department before, and we feel like we're in a great position right now with Dr. Joins owning the patent 100%. moving forward. But was there something else more
I
specific?
don't know what STI is, sorry.
STI?
Local business.
Oh.
They're a local business, you would in Boston.
No, I guess I was curious about the ownership of the patent. It explicitly says that Dr. Jones owns it, yet it also says that he's a full-time professor here, or I assume full-time. And I'm just trying to make sure that I understood the linkage, or no linkage at all with the.
No linkage to do.
Why is this equipment so expensive?
I'll let Paul take you through that.
It's pretty simple.
550 grand for that?
That's a 1/16 model. Here's what we got. There is a pretty detailed material list. Y'all don't have that. I haven't given it to you because I consider it company confidential. The material list does include a 100 kilowatt generator. It's a lot of power, it's a lot of money. The list also includes 100 kilowatts microwave magnetron. Again, a lot of power, a lot of money. In order to generate these microwaves, we're talking about 915 megahertz, and we're talking about very high amplitude, 100 kilowatts. You've got to have a very good microwave power generation system. That involves rather large transformers, it involves diodes, it involves a soft start system, programming through programmable logic controllers, circuit breakers for control of this device, NEMA 4X enclosures for everything that's going out in the field, because it's got to be waterproof and it's got to be dust-free. Honestly, the expense is coming in at around $360,000 for material, and then there's trades that have to be involved with this as well. You've got to pay welders to be able to build your steel frame. You've got to be able to pay aluminum welders to be able to build your aluminum safety cage. You've got to be able to pay mechanics and electricians to assemble this and to put together the unit with high quality. So we've got another about, I'm going to say 80,000, I believe. I don't know that because I don't have my financial sheet from me. About 80,000 in trades labor, and then beyond that, we've got to have some profit.
So you don't have a prototype yet?
Absolutely not. So we've got design models, but as far as a field scale prototype, no. This is as close as.
I'll try it on my garden.
Greenwave Sciences, guys. So we have come to an end of all our pitches tonight, but guys, these 7 ideas, and the teams that represent them really represent the best of the student entrepreneurial community here at Duke, and I'd like to give them a big, big round of applause. I would now like to request our judges to say a few words, some overall comments or feedback on the ideas they heard tonight. Greg, would you want to go first?
Yeah. I don't need that. I'm from Jersey. There we go. What exit? Yeah. Took years to figure that out. I thought it was fantastic. It was really a lot of passion. I think that's one of the biggest things. I'm saving my comments for what I like to see for now. There's no reason, like John said, to put pressure on someone. I want to see this and it doesn't show up. You know. But it did. Everything showed up. The passion was, I think, the biggest positive. If you don't believe in what you're doing, you're never going to get anybody else to believe it. That's number one for me. That's the first thing I look for. Are these people passionate about what they're doing? Especially when I don't understand the business, right? And I can't really tell technical risk factors, for example. But I can certainly be motivated to go find experts to take a look at that for me and to help me with my investment or the investment for parties that I'm responsible to. Right behind that, a real close second, is intellectual property. I think that became very clear, right? A lot of the questions were on IP. And you really have to focus on that. Whatever you do, if you don't own it, you don't own it, right? And if you don't own it, don't waste your time. And if people see that there's any kind of weakness in your ownership or control of whatever technology or thought process or idea that you have, and you will not get them to invest. You have to just take that worry off the table right away. and all the other things are very important too. You know, the positioning and the strategies and the market due diligence. A lot of that is just checking boxes. And really, the primary reason why I didn't tell you guys, first off, what I'm looking for is because that's not how I look at investments. I look for reasons why I shouldn't invest. Because think about it, the people who you're going to go talk to are folks who probably do this for a living, right? And they're looking at lots of deals. There's tons of people out there who want to be successful entrepreneurs. And they're all going after the same bucket of money, right? It's very, very competitive. And you can't look at every deal. You spend too much time on it. So very quickly, once you get into venture capital or private equity of any type, you start looking for reasons. You teach yourself to be a skeptic. I'm wasting my time. Prove me wrong. That's how I go in, my mindset. It wasn't easy for me to do that at first, because I'm really an eternal optimist. But you go in there and you have to be skeptical. You have to look for reasons why this doesn't work. So you really have to have everything buttoned up. And you don't have to have every answer. You just have to know, you got to show that you know it's important. We have a plan to figure it out. And always maintain your credibility. That's the last and most important thing. If you really don't understand something, if you're not clear on it, don't just start talking and trying to answer for the sake of controlling the crowd. Just flat out, we hadn't thought of that. I got to tell you something. You might lose one investor, but you could gain 5, right, by that credibility. Because really, when it comes down to it, you take all the technical risk away, you take the IP off the table, and it comes down to execution risk. And it's about the people who are involved in the company and how they perform for a short time in front of the crowd reflects on your decision whether or not you trust them, whether or not you trust them with your money, whether or not you think they're going to be thinking of the right things and doing the right things, maybe not executing perfectly, but they know that that's critical, and they'll find the right people to help them get there. I thought the presentations were fantastic, and you put us in a very difficult position. It's going to be hard to pick one. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me as well. I can see why all 7 presentations made it to this final. They're absolutely fabulous. The business plans, as Greg mentioned, were delivered in a thoughtful way, a very high content way, energetically, and with a great deal of sophistication. In fact, the sophistication that belies your years. You've given this judge a very difficult task, and you covered all the things that I commented I was looking for in every presentation. IP, the disruptive nature of the product, covered the team that would execute. I learned about capital efficiency, and I had an understanding of market size in each one. So again, the delivery and the content was perfect. If it was up to me, I'd declare all of you winners. It would make my job a lot easier. Thanks for having me.
I'll start off by saying it was really interesting for me because 2 of the competitors here, I had judged the elevator speech. So seeing where they had gone since then, quite a lot of work has gone into what they're doing, quite a lot of thought. So it's a little bit unfair as I look at it. I may have to abstain or something. I don't know what I'll do. But I thought overall, I'll kind of echo what Greg was saying about passion, but just a belief and commitment in what they're doing and in their product. And I think that's absolutely essential. If you're not connected with your product, you just say, no, this is a good idea, I think I'll do it, versus say, hey, this is something I really believe in. I'm absolutely committed to this. I'm going to make it work. That becomes essential. It has to be a determination, a drive, a desire to make it happen. So I think we saw a lot of that today. And just from an overall perspective of knowing, people understanding what they're doing, the plans themselves, I thought were well developed. People had a good sense of the business. As Jack said, they understood their market, the disruption factors he was speaking of, how did they differentiate their product. They hit upon the key elements of a plan. And now it becomes really, really difficult because we have to look at it and say, all right, these are all great plans. We have people with passion and commitment. How do we make a decision on something like that? I applaud all 7 of the entries here, and don't really look forward to judging them, but we have to. We're going to have to make a decision. So I thank them. I thank all of you for coming here and allowing us to judge.
So I know it's been a very, very long night for everyone here, especially our judges. We can check off, we can switch off, but the judges cannot. And so they've been listening very actively to all the speeches. Thank you again, judges. It's been a pleasure to have you here with us. It's just a final reminder, next Friday is a celebration of entrepreneurship here at Duke. It's our grand finale event. We're trying to make it a fun night for everyone and celebrate entrepreneurship. So please put it in your calendar. And now there are drinks being served outside. You can leave your feedback forms on the desk. Just go out, enjoy, get a drink, network with entrepreneurs, and thank you for being here.